Hello and welcome to Biogas TV, Season 2, Episode 4. This is the best half hour of your week. Today we've got a packed agenda. I'm Paul Green. I run a biogas advisory business. I'm here with my co-host, Alex McFarland, a fellow RNG advisor and leading industry project development consultant. And we're pleased to have a panel discussion today on the state of the RNG industry. Dave Wayburn, John Betcha, and Leone Carcoviata are highly credentialed experts in the fields of renewables and RNG. Dave having had a fascinating early career in aviation engineering, Leone a PhD in economics, and John having landed at Purpose Energy recently. So today's sponsor for this episode is IVUS Adsorption. Jeff Fotakis, who's with us, is a wonderful new addition to the IVUS team, and he's here to say a few words about IVUS. So go for it, Jeff.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate that kind introduction. I've put together a few slides. I don't know if I can steal the screen, if that's possible. If not, happy to just chat through
Just
it
hear
too.
that if you're at the bottom of the screen, the share button is in the middle of the base of your screen. Just click that.
Okay, there we go.
While you're doing that, Jeff, congratulations on the new role.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see is it in presentation mode? Can you see my screen?
And starting.
Oh, yeah, we're good.
Rock and roll.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So, Paul, you know me, and I have a tendency to talk a lot, so I'll try to keep things short and sweet. I appreciate everyone allowing us the time to talk. And Paul, I think you're a tremendous asset to the industry. So really appreciate you putting this together. At IVUS, our mission is we engineer, manufacture, and service advanced gas processing conditions and purification products that enable sustainable and circular future for our planet. So a little bit of our high-level overview of our mission. I don't know if I could move this down. All right. So we have a pressure swing absorption processing system that we use and complete treatment systems that go for applying towards biogas processing, renewable natural gas, carbon capture and liquefaction, and hydrogen purification. We have 450 plus deployments worldwide in different applications with our technology. We design our products and do a lot of R&D and research. We build and manufacture them at our facility in Montreal, and then we can provide installation and support services in delivering the product as a system. Our production facility is located, like I said, in 20 miles north of Montreal, which is staffed with around 100 people that are part of our manufacturing team. Our core technology is a rotary valve pressure swing absorption process. So you can see in this picture here, there's a bunch of tanks that are surrounding the rotary valve. And the way that this rotary valve functions, there's channels in the valve that allow gas to enter one tank, also allow the channel open to the vacuum pump to desorb and regenerate another tank. So as this valve spins around, it allows the gas to flow in and out of the different vessels and allows it to swing the pressure and then fractionate and separate methane from carbon dioxide and make renewable natural gas. And some real quick highlights on how this, is a benefit. It really simplifies the whole valving arrangement in a pressure swing absorption system. So instead of having a bunch of valves, we have one valve. It makes it more compact, saves a lot of space. We've done a lot of work with the absorbance and the scheduling and how this PSA function to make it robust. It's also a little bit more forgiving with contaminants than some of the other styles of systems out there, but we get high recovery. It's what we find to be a lower total install costs. It's easy to control and reliable. It's also fully assembled and tested and certified units in our facility. So it makes the installation of our containerized biostream units very easy. It's just rig the containers, set them down in place, connect the buffer tank arrangement on the roof and the chilling unit on the side, and the feed systems mechanically and electrically into the unit, and it's up and running. So we really simplify the whole site installation process as well. And then our biogas upgrading applications across dairy manure, other organics, co-digestion, wastewater plants. We also have full designs for landfill gas treatment systems that we've done in several installations that can, remove all the other constituents you typically wouldn't see with more air and a gas collection system on a landfill. So
Okay.
I don't know how fast I was, Paul, but
That
I
was
tried to go
beautiful.
pretty
That
fast.
was pretty
beautiful.
good, Jeff.
Okay,
Speed of
perfect.
light.
Ripped
Well
right through
done.
it.
Okay,
Okay.
excellent.
Thanks, Jeff. Catch you later.
Welcome.
Thanks for your sponsorship. So after the panel discussion, we'll have two additional speakers. George Hextra will talk to us about fascinating new theories about the D3 RIN market, and Drew Puchot will close out with the offtake corners. So we'll get going here with the panel. So speakers will each start with a couple of prepared marks. So with that, I invite Dave Wayburn to get us kicked off.
Thanks, Paul. Not sure how prepared this is, but just a bit about my background. I come out of the aerospace and defense industry from way, way long ago. I've now spent twice as much time in the biogas space, but I was at Boeing way back when, focused on commercializing R&D technologies, or for the aerospace and defense side of the company, or taking technologies that we had inside of the company and then trying to move them into other viable marketplaces. And so it was sort of that approach that I took towards jumping wholly into the biogas space, which was perhaps one of the craziest decisions that I've ever taken in hindsight. Got involved.
You're in good company there, Dave. We all fit into that category. Don't worry about it.
The difference between us and the rest of the industry, or those people that have tried and gotten out, is that we just don't know any better than to have kept trying over and over and over again. So I developed a project in Brunswick, Maine, that was a biosolids digester that was a failure on the first day that we started it up. And ever since then, I've been trying to find technologies to fix all those problems. And a couple of years ago, sort of moonlighted for a little bit as a corporate strategy business development for a large RNG platform, but now back again, focused on helping a bunch of different innovators and small scale developers trying to figure out how to make their projects and their technologies work in the space.
Well, maybe John wants to say hello.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. If you don't know me, so as Paul mentioned earlier, I recently landed a role with Purpose Energy. Came up through the wastewater business industry. Previously on the environmental side, was introduced to anaerobic digestion just on the biosolid side. And then, that kickstarted my career in the renewable natural gas development space. And now with Purpose Energy, I'm, really dialed in and focused with some horse blinders in the food and beverage industry, taking organic waste and then digesting it from, different feedstock suppliers. And I don't want to make this a sales pitch by any means, but Purpose has done a lot of cool things. So if you're ever interested in learning a little bit about Purpose Energy, feel free to reach out. But, I want to definitely be a part of this conversation and with my experience, Dave's experience, and the other panelists here, I think we all can put our heads together and give you guys a good show for the middle of the day during lunch.
Okay, Leonie.
I'm a biofuel strategist with a background in market development and energy commodity analysis and forecasting. I started at Argus Media as a consultant, and my background there at where I led most, if not all, of the RNG project development and due diligence reports means that I have probably almost anyone in the industry probably has a study with my name on it. So I know things about all of you.
Uh-oh.
Cool. Good. So as transportation starts to slow down as a strong offtake market for RNG, feel free to lay on any thoughts you've got about, say, the Canadian market or SAF or the voluntary space or IMO. Like Leonie, maybe you go first. What are you excited about for 2026?
I'm seeing a lot of activity from developers trying to move offtake into Canada to take advantage of the current high prices. They're about, and Drew can back me up on this because my numbers might not be as current as his. Like they've ranged from Canadian 320 to Canadian 380 a ton, depending on the CI score. But Dave and I we had this conversation in that it makes sense to do this to try and take advantage of the high prices in the short term if you already have a project that's online. But it's a really high risk strategy if you are just greenlighting a project to put all your eggs in a Canadian basket. So what I see the CFR doing for American producers right now is maybe providing them with some relief from the low California credit prices and short-term market. But I'm not, it's a highly political situation, right, with the CFR, in that it's not as well established as the California market. So it can be impacted by the winds of change if the political environment changes. So, but definitely in the short term, for now, it's a great place to be.
And that's a different perspective, Leonie, right? Compared U.S. projects versus Canadian projects, because the CFR will ultimately end up probably benefiting the Canadians a lot more than it will for those of us down here. But we have more biogas projects that can kind of help fill that gap. And so I think the idea is that we need to not only be innovating to be able to figure out how to get into the CFR, but we should keep looking at the maritime. We should keep looking at, voluntary. And, as we've talked about before with John now over at Purpose, I think it's kind of exciting because what's old is new again. Being able to do on-site co-located generation. I think that a large thrust of what we want to try and do in 2026 as an industry is don't get complacent. We got to keep trying to innovate because if we're not, we're just going to end up getting caught sideways with whatever politics and regulation change. But if we can keep trying to innovate and push ourselves into new markets, we'll stay ahead of getting a little bit too stagnant.
So question for the group here, John, Dave, Leonie. Would you advise folks who do have existing biogas plants or are coming online, would you advise them to participate and get registered in all of the various programming, given that there's this sort of churn, right? And we have these short-term opportunities here and there. What would you advise? Like, can they go? Should they spend the money and get in the queue at CFR, or what's your opinion?
Yeah, I would like to take that one, Alex. So being part of a nimble, AD developer, I think, to pay to get involved or get in line is one thing, but education is free. There are so many people that are willing to share what they know, and at least being aware of what the outlets are. I mean, some of the projects that I'm currently looking at, I mean, yes, we're looking at them from an older approach of CHPs or direct use of biogas and boilers or just thermal systems, or even RNG direct to the pipe. So having the optionality from not only a technology or offtake perspective, but also from a policy perspective, it just kind of gives the developer a leg up of what is next if something emerges, or if we do want to put all of our eggs into the CFR market. So I think just education is something that I might personally am not told to go educate myself, but I think it's really good to not only network, make friends, but also just be aware of what's going on. I mean, we'll all end up at a similar event this year, and why not just talk about the relevant things that are occurring around us?
Yeah, Alex, I would definitely advise people to look into it, but in particular, what I found in looking at projects that might be CFR compliant is if it's already California compliant and able to generate LCFS credits, there is usually very little additional capital expenditure required to ensure that their project will generate will be eligible for CFR credits. That said, that has been what I found, and I'm sure somewhere out there there's going to be an outlier project where it's going to cost an incredible amount of money to be CFR compliant. So do the research, but it's an opportunity to add another another revenue stream. And if you have the agility and ability to be flexible and switch back and forth between the different compliance markets, I would say go for it.
Thank you. Makes sense.
How's the voluntary market looking these days?
John, I think that's for you.
It's tough. I mean, ESG, GHG, people have definitely peeled back a little bit. I think you can still find corporates that are interested, and there might even be some here participating today, just listening in. But being an activist and just having those conversations is still tough. No one is really pinned up against the wall trying to get ahead of it right now. But I still think there's hope in the near future. I don't know if it's this year or next year, but the first movers are the ones that you really want to have that relationship with anyway. So building out that strategic partnership with folks that have multiple plants around the country, every private equity funder, sponsor, they want repeatable business, and ultimately it goes hand in hand with copy paste facility to facility. Yes, they won't be the same, but every organic waste stream has their challenges. So just getting in front of the right folks, and just participating in broader industry events and just staying well connected. I think the time will come where the voluntary market continues to take a better pace. It's just a matter of when.
I would say that there's opportunities in the voluntary market, but the challenge is that corporates don't have all the information available to them. There seems to be a bewildering variety of options, but not all of these options that are presented to them are actually economical or viable. Like I've spoken to some corporates where I said to them, you should consider biogas or RNG. And I've had people say, oh, no, we're looking at hydrogen. I'm so like, okay.
Last year, like at the Renewable Thermal Collaborative Conference, what was eye-opening for me was just really hearing the words come out of their mouth about, not having the interest in covering the methane abatement side of some of this. And I think that there are two ways that they were very concerned about their own carbon footprint at their own facilities. So I kind of see two options. One relative to innovation here, we can either figure out how to market outside of the transport markets, we can either figure out how to decouple the methane mitigation or the scope 1 mitigation from the I'm just generating a renewable fuel side of things. And that was an area that Leonie and I were sort of starting to dig into last year. The other area, which is sort of a real passion of mine, is shrink the digester, shrink the source. If I'm able to generate all of the gas off of a Colgate or, some large on-site producer, in most instances, the wastes that are getting generated on site, if you digest them or turn them to energy in one form or the other, are less than the demand on site. So now I can generate electricity at behind the meter prices, and if it's an international company, utilize their internal cost of carbon as the means of actually getting that carbon benefit on top of anything. So, and there are technologies that are coming along that are going to help us with that. I mean, Purpose Energy, and I'm just going to keep plugging you, John, but the approach that with Fitch's design and that sort of technology allows you to do things a little bit more confined. But there are other groups that are coming out there with small scale digesters that I think will, maybe not in 2026, but in the years shortly there following, will be able to go after voluntary markets just simply because we're where the demand is.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the smaller scale design, it not only allows you to really have that personal relationship with the customer, the feedstock provider, but also possibly the end user if they do have an appetite for on-site generation or direct biogas use. I've had conversations with folks that have approached it from okay, let's use landfill gas, but there's always the too dirty kind of concept. So repositioning it from hey, we are taking your waste, turning it into biogas, and then using it on site. I mean, it's a great story from not only revenue perspective, but in savings perspective and operational cost reduction. But I mean, the media loves it. I mean, it will get a great story, and if it's a major corporate that has multiple plants that wants to really get out in front and decarbonize per se, I mean, who better to do it than a smaller developer, for instance? I think it would just be a good kind of relationship from the start.
And
I
Dave,
mean,
you and I are still bullish about using biogas or upgraded RNG in other fuels like SAF and marine fuel.
yeah. Well, there's a group that I've been talking to recently that they're developing their project with the intent that methanol is coming out of that plant. And they've actually been able to land the mythical off taker with their offtake or with the fuel producing. Now, there's lots of complexities, but the interesting thing about this is in this example, the developers partnered up with a foreign supplier of the designer and supplier of the technology who's going to take a financial stake in the project. And that's actually another area of innovation. We're all used to working as platform, working for a developer who is a standalone component in the development scheme. But I think that we're seeing EPCs partnering with developers, partnering with technology providers, and I think that's something that we need to be looking at as well. Is how do we avoid some of the long-term, development risks of putting it all in the hands with some guy in a truck. But if we're actively trying to drive the market and drive the demand, we should be trying to have people team up across, up and down the vertical, the value chain on the development side.
Yep.
Well, good panelists. Maybe take a second here for any closing remarks before we move on to George. Are we good? Anything else?
Kick it to George.
All right, George, you're up, brother. Talk
Okay,
to us
well,
about D3 RINs.
yeah, well, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Thanks to Paul and to all of you for the opportunity to give your attention for a few minutes today. My company is a research company. We do research projects on topics that we think need research, with the primary focus for our clients being in the refining and fuels. That's our primary focus. And that's where my background is in refining technology and economics. And 5 years ago, we identified RINs pricing and economics as a topic that needed research and that we thought we could market. And our research on that topic led to us now being able to calculate fundamental theoretical values for the D3, D4, and D6 RINs. And this capability came from work we found in the academic world, and we took and reduced to spreadsheet form. And that capability is a capability that we're bringing to the market and have been doing that for 5 years. Now, 3 years ago, our theoretical values that we calculate were licensed to Bloomberg Finance, and they are shown on the Bloomberg terminal as a benchmark reference price. And so if you're a terminal subscriber, you can see our theoretical prices charted next to the actual market prices. And I want to say just 3 things about the RIN market right now. The D3 RIN was at $3.50 2 years ago. And today it's at $2.35, and that's basically a crash. And the market's view is that this crash was caused by the partial waivers of the cellulosic volume mandate and the other changes that were made in the volume mandate level. Now, the second point is that the theoretical price was $3.50 back when the market price was $3.50, but today the theoretical price is $3.10. So theoretically, the market price is way below where it should be, according to economic theory. And so the third point is we strongly believe that the D3 RIN price is going to increase in 2026. And, those 3 points raise a lot of questions. And Paul and I talked through those questions. He asked them, and I tried to answer them. It took about a half hour. And by that time, we had about all that is digestible in a half an hour. So I'm not going to try to, for questions like, for example, what is a theoretical price? How is it calculated? What substantiation do we have that it's worthy of having any attention? Why should we pay attention to it? And we can't address those questions today, but I am going to address 2 of the questions that Paul asked. The first is, why is the theoretical price 75 cents higher than the market price today? That's what it is, about 75 cents higher than the market price. And the answer is because the EPA's reduction in the volume mandates do not justify anything like over $1 reduction in the RIN price from a fundamental or theoretical standpoint. The D3 RIN price is not that sensitive to the relatively small changes that were made in the mandate. And that's the main reason why the theoretical price has not gone down anywhere near as much as the market price. And then the second question is, well, doesn't that indicate the true value of something like this, a credit? And I say, yes, it does for large commodity markets like soybeans and corn and ethanol and gasoline and diesel fuel and crude oil, but it does not necessarily indicate the true value of a RIN. And that's especially true in the case of the D3 RIN, which is a very thinly traded market that has very little real history. And the buyers, as I understand it, tend to be mostly big companies. There's not a whole lot of them, and they have a lot of pricing power. So it's entirely plausible that the true value of the RIN is less than the true value of the RIN is substantially different than the price you see being traded in the market. So I'm going to finish with a request. I'm very interested in talking with people who produce and sell D3 RINs. And if anybody out there wants to talk more about this topic, please contact me anytime. You can send me your questions by email or contact me, and we can arrange to talk by phone or by web conference.
Yeah.
And like I say, a 30-minute web conference will saturate you on this topic.
Sounds like we got the tip of the iceberg here, George.
Yes, but I'm very eager to talk with anyone, especially people who are trying to sell RINs on this topic. And my contact info is in the
it's in the
chat box.
Yeah, it's right there. It's in the chat. We're good. Yeah, thanks, George.
Thank you.
Appreciate that thought leadership. So with that, we've got Drew Puchot to close us out.
Hey guys, try and make this quick. I've had a couple of connection issues today, but just wanted to touch on a continuation of, as George talked about RINs, we need to talk about LCFS, and we got new data for Q3 2025 out of CARB on Friday, showing that we had roughly 8.3 tons of credits generated and 10 million metric tons of deficits generated for Q3 of 25, resulting in a cumulative reduction of 1.7 million metric tons, which is an interesting bullish indicator for LCFS pricing. We saw pricing jump from Friday to today for spot LCFS up to $67.25 recently trading.
Yay.
And the futures trading a little above $70, around $71.50 for the D's 26 futures, which is about almost a $5 increase for those futures. That's a nice little jump to see. Hopefully we'll see a continuing trend above $70 going on for the next several years here because of this. And that impact, is interesting within the RNG offtake market as a whole, because you look at CARB's data on bio CNG CI scores, they're averaging around minus 196 right now. And for Q3 specifically, it was minus 219. Many of the CNG dispensers are targeting a minus 250 CI score for RNG at this point, which we have run across a few CNG groups that are still getting landfill gas and are looking to end those contracts and renew them with low CI RNG. So you should continue to see that CI score come down. As those CI scores come down and prices go up, we'll see how that impacts the merchant rates for CNG dispensing. But right now we're seeing a pretty consistent mid to low 20 percentage share for term contracts and slightly higher for shorter term contracts, depending on the CI score. Actively looking for supply for 2026 forward. And as we discussed earlier, there's an interesting dynamic going on between Canada and the US right now. Leone and David and I kind of have a constant banter that we share personally, and we were kind of talking a little bit about that. Canada kind of still needs to get out of its own way with energy policy, and if it can manage to do so, it may be a significant contender for RNG offtake being imported into Canada in order to generate CFR credits. I will throw out the caveat that while conversations now are very positive, we're seeing groups that are willing to do pricing on low CI RNG in the $80 range. The question still comes down to, can you actually get that CI score? How long is it going to get you? How long is it going to take you to get ECCC pathway level and get at least a temporary CI score? And for most projects, this is still very much up in the air. So I will throw kind of some caution to that concept that this market is very valuable. Seeing CFR credits trade between 360 and 375. But yeah, the premise behind a long-term offtake contract is for the buyer to take on risk, and that is a very risky market to take on. So happy to chat with anyone on what we're seeing. We're seeing some interesting creativity in offtake contract right now. Looking forward to working with anyone that has supply and would like to discuss that further.
Good stuff. Well, good. So we're at time. Thank you to all the panelists and experts on the call today. Please reach out to any of them. They're here to help. That's why they're here. They're the experts, so they're here to serve. So thanks, everybody. Have a good Monday. Enjoy the week. So episode 5 is Patrick Surface from the American Biogas Council. A week from today, we'll see everybody then.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Paul.
you.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks. Have a good day. Enjoy.